This is big breaking news. A shooting has happened in Washington, D.C., and the White House is now on lockdown after it has been breached. Multiple officers have been injured, and we are also seeing an attack on a courthouse as well too. So lots of things going on right now. Let's get into all the details here. You guys can see we have multiple incidences happening in DC just today. This is the first one coming out. This is being just reported by Nick Sorter. All right, this is being reported at 11:56 p.m. Eastern Time, April 16th. This is what he's saying here. Heavily armed U.S. Capitol police officers are racing to a reported shooting in the vicinity of a high-ranking U.S. government official in Washington, D.C.'s Navy Yard. The black SUV seen in the video is an armored Chevrolet Suburban used by leaders of Congress and members of the president's cabinet. It's unclear if this was a targeted attack, but the alleged shooter is not in custody and police are searching the area. I personally witnessed that official to be extracted via undercover Capitol police officers protected by uniformed officers carrying long rifles. I will not name the official without their express permission, as I don't want to dox her home. Other officers can be seen sweeping the area for evidence like shell casings. All right. There's also a curfew that's been implemented in DC as well. We'll get into that. What's going on in our nation's capital? You guys can see here this video just posted by Nick Sorter. He's down there, boots on the ground, and police officers are heavily armed. They have their hand on their firearm, and there's a massive response right now from the Capitol police force. All right, so lots of stuff going on. All right, we'll get into more details of that, but check this out too. The White House was breached earlier today as well. It says man detained, officer injured after attempt to scale White House fence. It says here U.S. Secret Service agents detained a man on Thursday morning after he attempted to breach the White House perimeter on foot. Secret Service Communications Chief Anthony Guglielmi, sorry if I pronounced that wrong, said the incident occurred around 11:30 a.m. when the man jumped over a construction bollard by the Treasury building on the northeast side of the presidential complex in Washington. It says here officers encountered the individual near a pedestrian gate where he engaged in a physical altercation before being taken into custody. He noted that an officer sustained a laceration during the event and that the agent, along with the suspect, received a medical evaluation for minor injuries. All right, so somebody's breaching the White House today. What's going on? There's a shooting near a U.S. top official, apparently, and we're also seeing curfews going into effect as well, too. Check this out. D.C. mayor brings back youth curfew zones under emergency order. Mayor Mario Bowser has reinstated curfew zones for teens under a public emergency order for the next 15 days following Wednesday's expiration of a D.C. law allowing police to set curfew zones. The mayor's office announced that the nightly curfew would begin at 11 p.m. on Thursday and continue until the expiration of it on May 1st. Curfew rules apply to those under the age of 18. Bowser repeated her support yesterday for the Juvenile Curfew Second Temporary Amendment Act of 2025. That amendment gives authority to D.C. police to establish juvenile curfews. They're saying here the zone approach is intended to stop mass gatherings of teens in places such as the Navy Yard, where so-called, quote, teen takeovers have erupted into fights and led to arrests. Yeah, we've seen lots of this happen in D.C., where these massive groups of people will just start causing chaos. They'll have fights. They'll be, taking over parks. And a lot of times they'll be battling, police officers or even National Guard members as well, too. So they're saying there could be a $500 fine or assigned community service if a child in their care violates the curfew for the parents. All right, so they could be affected as well. It says your teenagers under 18 would be exempt if they're accompanied by a parent. So What's going on in DC? Why are we just seeing all of these incidences happening? Why is there so much chaos there? The National Guard is still deployed there on the ground. I saw a video just a few days ago of National Guard members chasing down these, quote, teens in the Navy Yard and just right around DC, where there's just big groups of people causing chaos. All right, so what's going on in DC? It's supposed to be our nation's capital. It should be extremely safe, but for some reason, it is kind of turned into a war zone, a battle zone here. All right, you guys can see here as well, a courthouse was attacked too. All right, what's going on today? I don't know what's happening. It says man killed in Pascagoula shooting tried to cause explosion near courthouse. Mississippi Bureau of Investigations reports. So Mississippi Bureau of Investigation said they're investigating a Thursday shooting in Pascagoula that left one man dead. According to the NBI news release, the man drove his vehicle through a fence and parked near a large propane tank. The man allegedly then tried to ignite the propane tanks that were in the back of his vehicle in an apparent attempt to cause an explosion. When officers arrived on the scene, the man led them on a short foot chase before an exchange of gunfire happened between him and officers, according to the release. According to the NBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation and ATF are involved as well. NBI officials said they're continuing to gather evidence. Once the investigation is completed, they will share their findings with the Attorney General's office. Deputies shot and killed a suspect today outside the Jackson County, Mississippi Courthouse. A witness tells us 50 to 60 shots were fired. That's a lot. Wow. Jackson County Sheriff John Ledbetter said a crash led to the deadly encounter. Deputies say the suspect was inside the car that crashed into a fence just south of the courthouse. When they tried to talk to him, he reportedly pulled out a firearm. What's happening today? Is it a full moon or something? I don't think it is at all, but I'm just saying what's happening. Ledbetter says that's when gunfire was exchanged between deputies and the suspect. Within minutes, the suspect was shot and killed. There's no more active threat, but the area is closed off for investigation. This is a traumatic event, especially with downtown during business hours, during the lunch hour, and so many people moving about. But I will acknowledge our law enforcement and other local law enforcement for reacting very quickly to eliminate the threat. They have not released the suspect's identity. All right, so courthouse here is being targeted as well in Mississippi. We have the White House, some guy breaching the fence here. And just last month, there was a man who drove a van through a barricade near the White House in the early morning of March 11th. Christopher Kavanaugh, a 35-year-old from Ohio, was charged with unlawful entry and destruction of property after the crash. Kavanaugh was wearing a shirt in support of President Trump at the time, apparently, of the crash, and he told Secret Service agents during an interrogation that he was at the White House to deliver a present, according to the local outlets, whatever that means. Additionally, last October, a man was taken into custody after he drove into a White House security gate. The man rammed his vehicle into the gate on the northeast perimeter of the complex, and he was immediately apprehended by Secret Service officers. Okay, so this has been a pattern for some reason. I reported on too just a week or two ago as well. There was shots fired outside the White House in Lafayette Square Park, right across the street outside the White House. All right, so what's going on here? And that park is actually supposed to be closed. It's been closed for a while, and for some reason somebody was in the park when it's closed. It's literally right across the street from the White House, and firing shots in this park at like 2 a.m. or something. That was just a couple weeks ago, not even in this article. Okay, so what's going on here? I mean, Washington, D.C. should be safe. It's where all of our top officials are, and there's lots of security breaches. Even the military base right there in DC that a lot of our top officials stay at, like Pete Hegseth and Marco Rubio, Stephen Miller, a lot of these White House officials live there on base. And even that base has been potentially compromised and breached by drone incursions. All right, there's reportedly been multiple drone incursions at these bases that have kind of happened, and they're not able to stop them really. So what's going on here? These seem to be like hardened drones that are targeting these military bases right in DC. They could be flying right near the White House too. These bases are, it's all right there. It's not very big, especially when you're talking in an aerial sense, like flying around. You're talking miles. Everything is a few miles away. So it's all close. All right, I wanted to get to this too. This big explosion here. We have another refinery going up in flames. All right, this time, this is the Miguel Hidalgo refinery in Tula, Mexico. This is the second largest refinery in Mexico. It refines around 250,000 barrels per day of capacity, right? It's give or take, a little bit more, a little bit less. And this is the second biggest one. The first biggest refinery in Mexico just went up in flames last week, the Dos Bocas refinery. And now we're seeing the second biggest one go up in flames. What's going on? These are Pemex refineries. It's the main oil company in Mexico. They actually have refineries here in the US as well, and oil rigs, things like that, oil wells in places like Texas. So we work closely with Pemex, and this is concerning. Two of their main refineries have had major explosions at them. Last week, the Dos Bocas one, which has a capacity over 300,000 barrels per day. And now this Miguel Hidalgo refinery is going offline in Tula. What are the odds of this having two massive refinery fires in a week in Mexico? These aren't even that far from each other. They're maybe like 3 or 4 hours or something like that. I'm not sure exactly, but they're not even that far from each other on the map either. And these are main refineries for places like Mexico City. Right? They supply a ton of the oil, the gas, the diesel, the jet fuel. It's all going there. And now both of their main refineries have gone offline. These are like the main ones. What are the odds of this? What do you think's going on here? Is this just some type of coincidence? Or is something more nefarious happening? All right, if it is a coincidence, this is the worst time coincidence that you could have. All right, we have a refinery as well went offline in Colorado as well. One of their largest ones, I think it's the largest one in Colorado, the Suncor refinery, just went offline a few days ago as well too. So lots of hits to the oil supply chain still happening. Almost every single day we are getting hundreds of thousands of barrels per day going offline. How much more can we sustain? How much more can we handle? We're really lucky, the US has access to our own oil domestically, and we have access to Venezuelan oil now. But when these refineries go offline, it doesn't really matter how much oil you have, because you have to refine the oil for it to be usable, or refine the products for it to be usable. So if the refineries are taken offline, that's key. It's key. It doesn't matter how much you have. That's what's going on in the Middle East. A lot of this infrastructure has been hit and taken offline. It doesn't matter how much they have. They can't export it because their storage tanks have been destroyed, pipelines have been destroyed, and then the Strait of Hormuz is still having slowdowns. So let me know what you guys think down below. Hope you guys are staying safe and staying prepared and staying stocked up, staying ready just in case I hope you have big blessings for your life and your family, and I hope you have a big old blessed day.